Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts, and welcome to yet another Let's Listen to Some Interviews for my upcoming Pokemon tabletop campaign. I am here joined by someone I have absolutely no clue who he is. Total
Fresh
stranger.
face.
Completely fresh face. I think your name is Ris Grestar?
Yeah, that's pretty
Rise
close.
Grestar? Either
Yes.
that or Ris Grestar, one of the two.
I typically go by Ris Grestar, if you don't mind.
Okay. I'll go with that then.
I know, you can work on it.
But yes, he is auditioning for a role, and as one of the finalists, let's get right into the interview questions, shall we? So, Riz, question number one.
Mhm.
What is it about the Pokemon universe slash franchise that you are passionate about?
In the Let's Say, you asked rather, I think, what fictional universe would I most want to be in? And my answer was actually the Pokemon universe. And the reason that I had for it was because in that universe, you don't have to be yourself anything special. You don't have to have powers or anything to live a fascinating life, you could just be a normal person, which is also what's really cool about this particular campaign, where you're actually encouraging just normal, everyday people. To go out and have their own adventures. So that's what I think is the coolest thing. And unfortunately, I don't think we get to touch on that a lot in the video games themselves. So another reason where I think this campaign is cool. It really branches out.
Second question, Riz. What is it about tabletop gaming or role playing that you are passionate about?
So I don't think I included this in my video because I had to cut it out, but I've been role playing just like on forums or over Skype with friends for about 10 years now, I think. With tabletop, I started a little more recently. But what I enjoy just about role playing in general, so both sides, is really the interaction between the characters and how that leads the development and where that all goes. It's really cool for me to have like a canon concept for a character in mind, but then to see how they change when like brought against certain stimuli. So, and I've gotten to experience this multiple times. Like reusing characters in some different role plays. I always start with like kind of the same slate, and then I've ended up with like so many different variations just because of the different people they ran into or the different events that they had. So I think that just seeing my characters grow along with like everyone else's and how it happened is just really cool.
That's interesting you mentioned that because it also happens in reverse. I have a campaign that I've done three times, but with three different sets of players, and
Mm,
the overall story is completely different because they
that's
make
cool.
completely different choices, and it's yeah. So I find that really
And yeah,
interesting.
role playing is just it can be so open ended.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Um, Riz, what do you believe makes you a good player to play with?
Well, I like to think that I'm a decent role player, which I think helps a lot in a campaign at least. This one doesn't apply as much because I feel like that was kind of the intention here, but I also like to think that I don't usually play like the overpowered character or necessarily all of the same archetypes that everyone usually sees. Like in Dungeons and Dragons plays before, I've just played kind of the goofy bard, as opposed to the warrior or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and so I like to think that it adds some sort of, just something else to the mix of things.
Yeah.
I think that my experience could help. And just being able to, bounce ideas off with other people or, in scenes with other people.
What do you believe if you are chosen for this campaign? What do you believe is going to be your biggest challenge as a player? And how would you try to overcome this challenge as a player?
Well, if I'm to pull from past experiences, honestly, my biggest challenge with group role plays is probably disagreements that arise from me or other players,
Hmm.
or even the GM. That's happened before. And I of course, I try not to, cause any conflicts, especially where unnecessary. Um, but I just know that disagreements have been had, and I think that the best way to, resolve that is just, to approach things with patience and understanding. Um, not to make accusations, to just try to have as best communication as possible. And instead of, just like flinging stones at people, to set time aside, maybe talk with the DM if issues arise. But
So you're more talking about out of character versus in character disagreements. Is that what you're referring to?
oh, in character disagreements are awesome.
Okay.
Well, I mean, to an extent,
Yeah,
but I
yeah, yeah.
mean more. Yeah, if because yeah, I meant more out of character disagreements. Like
Okay.
in particular, I had one role play where I disagreed with the GM, and I wasn't afraid to bring it up to him afterward and things like that. Of course,
Hmm.
I approached it. I tried my best to approach it in a polite way, but he didn't appreciate any criticisms, and that unfortunately ended poorly. But um, you can only do so much in some situations. So I would, of course, try my best not to let things like that happen. If I feel that, I or someone else too, for that matter, it's not just about me. If I or someone else is being treated unfairly, it shouldn't persist. But to try to go about that in the most proper manner possible, I suppose you
Right.
could say.
Got it. Cool,
Yeah,
cool. Thank you for clarifying.
no problem.
As you know, this particular campaign is unique in that you not only get to roleplay one character, but a second character because you'll
Yeah.
probably have an opportunity to play as somebody else's Pokemon.
Mhm.
My last question is if you could be any non legendary Pokemon in the Pokemon franchise, which Pokemon would you be and why?
Well, I it would be Vulpix, like because I picked that as Cassie's Pokemon because as I think I said in my audition too, Vulpix is just my favorite Pokemon. Well, a fox is my favorite animal, and so it's I think a natural extension. But Vulpix is adorable. Fire types are generally pretty cool, and useful, especially in that kind of world. And no, I don't really have an and there. Just Vulpix. Vulpix is awesome. So
So you're definitely Team Vulpix over Team Fennekin.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I understand and I acknowledge that they're both foxes, but I think that the art style completely different for one. Evolution's obviously very different. Yeah, something just draws me a lot more toward Vulpix. Not to say I dislike Fennekin. Fennekin was my starter when I played that generation.
And you're also Team Original Vulpix versus Team Alolan Vulpix.
I do like Alolan Vulpix, but I do think I like the original more. Yes. So if I had to
Okay.
pick a team, yes, I would go original. Though
Okay.
I do have an Alolan Vulpix on my team in the new one. Like I just barely caught it, and I was so
Nice.
happy. so
Cool.
so still love, but yeah.
Yes, cool. No pun intended. So, that being said, Liz, let's go ahead and get into the role playing. What kind of job or program do you think she would be applying
Well,
for?
in my little head canon right now, she's mostly just been doing small jobs like running errands or parcels or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
crafting apricorn balls and selling those on the side or things. If she were to look for a more steady job, though, it would
Mm-hmm.
kind of just be whatever she think would be, consistent and of course available, something that would work. So whether that's an aide in the Pokemon Center or working for like the Devon Corporation or something like that. So she's not picky is what I'm trying to say right now. She recently left home, so if she finds stable work, she'll take it for now.
Okay. So, what would you prefer, the Pokemon Center or the Devon Corporation?
Well, if I'm to be completely honest, I mostly just remember the name of Devon Corporation, so maybe Pokemon Center
Okay.
would be a little better.
Let's say she'll be a Pokemon Center aide, something along those lines.
Okay.
So, okay. So Cassie, she has her paperwork and she makes her way over to this agency. Maybe she found it online. And the double doors slide open. The facility itself has a pretty sterile, clean look, with the exception of all of these inspirational, you can have the job of your dreams posters all over. Maybe some bulletin boards around for the community that like hang up more job postings that people might want to look at. But she goes in, looks around, there's a front desk right there. And she goes up to this gentleman who's behind the desk and hands him her papers.
Mhm.
The gentleman kind of takes the papers and, gives them a bit of a flip, and he says, Pokemon Center aid, I see. Looks at her direction.
So, she'll nod with her hands kind of clasped in front of herself and be like, "Yep, that's correct."
And he says, I was told that my great great aunt was a Jenny or Joy. Jenny or Joy. Which one are the two? Which one of those are in the Pokemon centers?
Jenny's the police officer, Joy's the nurse.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Sorry, never mind. The police, somebody else, I think, before you was going for the police officer.
So she'll offer
But
a bit of a sheepish smile and just wave it off, like, no worries.
He goes over and takes a stamper, and then he stamps the front of your application, and then he hands the application over to you and says, "All right, young lady, I just need you to go down the hall right there. Just go into room 797, and they will proceed with your screening."
Okay, will they be expecting me then?
Oh, yes, absolutely. She always does. Madame Vu always expects them.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir.
Just to warn you, though, this entire screening process, it's kind of something new that we're trying out, so it might seem a little unorthodox. My personal recommendation and suggestion, just go with it. Just go with it.
She'll cock her head slightly, trying to really register what that might mean, but then just end up slowly nodding.
Okay. So you go down the hall as the gentleman behind the desk instructed, and you eventually do find a door that has the number 797 in front of it. However, the 797 is written on magic marker on a folder, like the folder that you would see in a slide,
Like a manila
filing
folder?
cabinet, or a filing cabinet, I guess more like. And it's just taped to this door. Slightly loosely, though. Some of the tape is coming off, so if you were to look slightly behind the folder, you would see that underneath said folder is this label on the door that says janitor.
I was actually going to say, upon seeing the folder, she'll kind of glance around toward the other doors to see what their signs might look like, and then
Yeah.
peek under.
Yes.
So, not entirely reassured, but not seeing anything else, I assume, in the area that would point at anything else. Are the numbers sequential at all?
The numbers are, yes, they are sequential. It's just, if you're paying attention, you're still on the main floor. So 797 typically is reserved for the 7th floor.
Yeah, but he
So-
didn't tell me to go up, right? He told us just
He
down
told
there.
you to go straight. So it's sequential. It's
Certainly
just
unorthodox.
the other numbers are sequential. This is the odd number that's the odd one out.
Okay, so she'll glance back toward the way she came and then just kind of exhale, well, all right, and then open the door.
You open the door, and the first thing that you notice is that your nostrils are invaded by the smell of incense emanating from this room, followed by the sound of peculiar music coming from behind a beaded curtain that is directly in front of you when you open this door.
The weirdest janitor's closet.
Yes. This closet is actually pretty deep.
It's bigger on the inside.
It seems to be bigger on the inside, yes. And there is like I said, a beaded curtain in front of you. What do you do?
Well, she can't really knock. So she'll just close the door that she came through, behind her. And then, call out, I'm here for my appointment application.
Yes! Yes, darling. Come in. Come in. You hear a female voice coming from behind the curtain.
Well, she will part the beads then and enter.
You will part the beads and enter, and you're going to find the room dimly lit with some candles. There is a round table with a crystal ball in the center of the room with a woman with dark skin, and she has very ostentatious clothes, which includes this purple shawl wrapped on her head.
It's amazing.
She has she's had a lot of jewelry, a lot of necklaces on with long fingernails. very well manicured long fingernails, though, and she says, "You have come into the sanctum of Madame Vu. Deja'Vu. But you can call me Madame Vu," she says with a smile as she has a little gold tooth as she smiles. "Please, do not be shy. Have a seat."
She will nod, take a seat, say, "Thank you, Madame Vu."
"I will be in charge of your screening today. I know all, see all, as it pertains to this position, to see if you are the perfect fit for this job. Wait. As a Pokemon Center aide."
And she will give, a little like cog of her head, be like, "I'm impressed. Yes, that's exactly what I'm here for."
Ah, the spirits of the outside are accurate today. You are in good hands, my dear. "So," she says as she passes her hands over the crystal ball, "as long as you answer my questions honestly to the best of your ability, everything will be just fine. Question number 1," she says.
As Cassie weakly smiles.
"Oh, wait. She looks closer to the crystal ball, and all of a sudden her hands drop, and then her shoulders relax, and then she starts making these weird noises. And then she stands up straight, rigid, and finally she says, "I see. Oh, I see a very sordid past from you. You have had quite a great experience from a infamous organization."
Well, her smile would immediately falter. But at this point, she's just gonna wait for Vu to go on.
"But I see that might be in your distant past. So it might not necessarily be a problem. It is just something that I noticed. Brushing forward, though, my first question then, despite your past experiences, why do you believe you are qualified for this job?"
Well, after that little bit of a scare there, she'll quietly clear her throat and sit up a little bit more and say, "Well, I've looked into the job. I've spoken to some of the assistants in various poke centers, and I think that I can handle it. I think that I would definitely add to a team." So I know that recently, especially with the new trainers starting out as they do every year, the Pokemon centers are getting a lot more visitors. So I think that especially now with all of the rush, all of the help would be welcome.
"There is a fire within you, my dear, that I can see, or maybe a fire next to you. Do you know what I'm referring to? You have many tales to say, or maybe the thing next to you also has many tales."
At that, she actually will genuinely smile a little bit and like look toward her hip where her Pokeball is bound to be, and say, "Yeah, I have a Pokemon here. Did you want to see?"
She says, "I already see. Oh, darling, not necessary, but I did want to ask. Since this creature is very dear to you, as most of them of its kind are to their trainers, what role do you see your little friend having in this job, should you take it?"
Oh, in my job at the Poke Center? Well, I don't expect to make Ivy do any of the work. Um, she's just my Pokemon. She's just my friend. This job's for me. Do they typically play a part?
Many people who have Pokemon tend to see them as partners, not only in life, but in everything that they do. occupation can be one of the things that a Pokemon works hand in hand with trainer. I was just curious if your friend would be able to contribute in any way, or if it will just simply be a non participating bystander.
I'm open to suggestions. I just never thought about it before, honestly.
Something to consider, she says. If you are going to a place of care and sickness, it might help to have somebody there just to be more for morale, especially if you're in a facility specifically designed for Pokemon. Just
So
a thought.
she'll smile a little and chuckle at that as she glances toward her Pokeball again and say, well, she always has been good at boosting morale. So you've got a point.
My next question: what do you hope you will get out of this experience at this job? And I'm not just referring to getting paid, that's obvious. Is there anything deeper that you hope to get out of this?
She seemed a little bit taken aback when Madame Vu actually mentioned getting paid, as that is the answer that every potential employee has on their mind, but never wants to say out loud. But she'll think for just a second before quickly nodding and saying, "No, of course. I mean, I want to broaden my horizons. I want to get more life experience. I've already had experience in the laboratory doing research. I've had experience in the Pokemart. I've never yet, though, worked side by side with the nurse before. I want to be able to fully explore my potential. And now that you mentioned it, the potential of my Pokemon."
My last question, if I may, will be an uncomfortable one, but I just wanted to know what you honestly would say to this. If your employer were to discover your past occupation, what would you say, or how would you handle that?
Well, Cassie will take a deep breath and sit upright and look at her with determination and say, "Madame Vu, I would not accept a job if they were not first aware of my past and okay with the things that I've done. I'm a changed woman, and if they can't accept that, then I don't need to work there."
She gives you a big grin with her golden tooth of shining against the candlelight, and she says, "That is a good answer. All right," she says. "No more questions for you, dear. But I do have one more thing I would like you to do before you are dismissed.
Of course, name it.
Are you familiar with the 3-card tarot fortune?"
I've heard of it, but I've never done it myself.
Allow me to reiterate. A deck of tarot cards are drawn by the reader, like myself, for example. One card represents your past, one card represents your present, and the last card represents your future. Today, we are not going to do that, but instead, sort of the reverse. I have here a set of cards, and she's going to hand you, out of character, a deck of cards, but these are not tarot cards. Instead, these cards, on each one, represents one of the types of Pokemon, one of the Pokemon types. And she will say, "I want you to go through these cards, look through them. Choose one to represent your past, one to represent your present, and the last one to represent your future. And interpret them for me, please."
I like the thought of her just handing Cassie a stack of energy cards
Yes.
from the game.
Yes, exactly, from the game. They're exactly like that. They look exactly like that.
Okay. Well, she'll take a deep breath and exhale as she's looking at the cards and just, starting to sort through them a little bit. And she will hesitate as she passes over a few in particular, wondering if they really do apply, wondering if she should actually pick them, whether or not she thinks they might. But eventually, she will settle on 3 cards, as she was asked. So, for her past, which may be a little bit self-bitter, but she did pick dark. So she'll set that down, without a word, and continue looking through the other cards. And then after that, she will find the fire card, set that down. And then lastly, she'll look through and then pick the normal card and set that down.
Okay. Excellent choices. Can you interpret them for me, please?
She'll nod and quietly clear her throat again before first pointing at the dark card and glancing up at Madame Vu. And with a weak smile, she'll say, I don't feel that I need to explain this too well, given what you already know. But with my past ties and with what recently happened in my family, the past is kind of hard to look at right now. So she'll move her finger over to the fire type card and say, this, I like to think, is the spark of a new beginning, largely encouraged and inspired by my newfound friend, currently out of character more, the only one she has.
Anyway, go ahead.
And of course, for her newfound passion, for her new work and new life. And then lastly, she'll move her finger over to the final card and just tap on it and say, this is what I want life to be in the end. I want it to be normal.
There's nothing wrong with that, dear. Excellent, she says, and she will gather up the cards, and she says, your screening is complete. And she stamps your application. She carefully hands the papers back to you and says, all right, darling, the last thing that you need to do before you leave the premises, just go next door. There will be a nice man who will help you. He will have a camera set up. This recording will be sent directly to the Pokémon Center, your employer, prospective employer. You just need to give your employer a recorded pitch as to why he should hire you.
Okay, I can do that. I can absolutely do that.
Good luck, darling. And she kind of gives you a, shoe, like to say you're dismissed. You're dismissed.
She is almost desperately curious why she's set up in the janitor's closet. But with that, she won't stop to ask. She will continue. I may not have much experience in this field in particular, but I am generally well knowledged. I learn quickly, and I like to think that I work well with others. So if you accept me as part of your team, I promise I will do my very best not to let you down.